Welcome back to another episode. I'm Miss Krystle, and I'm super excited for my guest today because, guys, we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty about the music business and what it really is, what it takes to be successful today as an independent musician, as a record label owner. And my guest today, who goes by the ex-founder, is not only a co-owner in a record label, we'll get into that a little bit, but he is by nature a builder, an entrepreneur, and really that's something that I just, shout from the hilltops to all of my clients. Do it yourself, build, become your own network, your own record label. And this is someone that I feel really represents that very well. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring him in now. Hello.
Hello, what's going on? Thank you for the nice intro. Appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you being with us today. So guys, before we kind of get into a couple of things that I have outlined for our discussion today, I always want to go through and say, when it comes to any of the entrepreneurs that I'm lucky enough to meet, to follow, to see their journey, this is definitely someone who's done some pretty cool stuff just within the realm of audience networks and growth hacking and what he's done just online as a marketer. I mean, this guy has kind of crushed it with something like 6 billion views on Facebook in 1 year. I mean, he has a pretty crazy track record, but I guess even with that, let's jump into it. When it comes to independent musicians, how important is marketing yourself?
Well, I think marketing is everything, and the billion views on Facebook was luck. I think we came in at the right time on this. Like we've been building on social media for 12 years, so it's been like a long overnight success in a way. And even with that, those 6 billion video views were, a failure. That project failed. So I think you learn a lot from failure. And going into your question is, it's all about content and distribution, meaning we could look at newspapers, right? The newspaper is, the product, the content, distribution are the routes, radio, same thing, TV. And I think musicians need to start looking at themselves as such, right? They create content and they have to build distribution so they can feed their audience. And you can monetize in a lot of different ways. And I mean, I think everything's shifting now. It's never been better to be a musician because you have a lot of tools at your disposal. Recording is cheaper, right? Marketing is cheaper. You have direct to consumer. It's all about building a community, right? Connecting with your audience and just day by day, look at ways to add value. Just understand what your strengths are, what your leverage is, and build on that. Because there's a lot of artists that I look at and they don't even know what their true value is or what their strengths are. And I think it's kind of that's the first step. Get to know yourself and build an audience. Like that's kind of what we do with Carolina.
Yeah, so you mentioned so Carolina Ross, and I probably don't say that properly, but she is this fantastic case study of the label that you co-own, SEMA Music Group, and she's the artist signed with you guys. And when I first met you, I had the opportunity to kind of check out what she's doing. She's crushing it on social media, on all music platforms. I mean, this girl has a video that has like 120 million views on YouTube, and I mean, that's amazing. You guys have done that.
Well, it's not, I got to give a lot of credit to Manny, most of it, and to her, because Manny does all the day-to-day operations. So he's my partner 50%. And then he's the one that knows music. I don't really know anything. If you ask me to produce or any of that, yeah, I'm lost. And then Carolina, man, her work ethic is amazing. And, it's just finding people you connect with. You want to work with people that look at life in a similar way, that have a similar vibe. I'm all about that stuff right now at this stage of my life. But there was a lot of failures before, man. We built projects to millions of followers, but we didn't take in consideration the human aspect, right? The person behind the artist. And we lost a lot of money before we had this success with, Carolina.
Well, you noted about failures. Failure is such a factor for so many people and why a lot of people never take that risk. They never start their record label. They never venture out even as an independent artist because they go, I'm going to go to a label because the label knows everything, right? So I'm going to put all my trust in them. What do you have to say to someone who is scared to even start because of fear?
Well, I think labels right now are getting a bad rep. I think labels are useful at the right time and when you have enough leverage. I think that is why, for example, in your case, why do you do music, right? It's because you love it. So it's just put that passion behind your art. And I think it's just that, just continue to do it. I mean, what do you have to lose? You know what I mean? You're not doing shit right now. So what are you going to lose? Nothing. You got everything to gain, especially if you haven't started. And nowadays you could go to Guitar Center or to like Best Buy, buy a USB mic. The new iPhones have great camera. You plug it into your computer, you record with GarageBand, whatever. You could master it online. There's so many tools to produce great quality audio. You can hire people in other countries, to keep your costs low. So I think there's never been a better time to not just to be a musician, but a creative. Overall, I mean, you have people that create art that just make money overnight because it just connects with an audience. So I think, it's a great time to be alive as a musician and creator, and just get started, man. If it doesn't work, try something else. Like you mentioned, I mean, we fell on 3 projects, and meaning that it fell in the sense that we got the success, we got the billboards, we got the gold records or whatever. Manny will know more about how many sales and all that stuff, but and we worked with majors. We did, international touring and stuff, but it didn't work because of the person behind it. So I think if you're going to start, make sure you really evaluate the people around you. Don't just go because people have money or because people know people. It's like, do you really want to work with your team every fucking day? I think that's key, because a lot of people don't take into that, and then you go try to make art, but there's the vibe is not right, and it's just not going to work out. And that's what happened to us, and we had to learn it the hard way. We're like literally just releasing an artist that failed, and meaning failed. We built her to 4 million followers, 1 million on YouTube, and we walked away from the project because it just wasn't working for us.
Well, and look, into your point about, when we say the word failure, it's really just a lesson learned, right? Because anything that you have failed at, you still accomplished something, but then you learned a lesson, you moved on, and maybe that lesson was it wasn't a good fit for you and your company with that particular artist. But something that I just find so much with my clients is that they're so scared, and that fear is crippling and it prevents them from ever actually getting started because they're afraid of what people are going to say on social media. And I'll be honest, in 2018 was when I personally started to really take social media seriously for even my own music career, because I'm like, I'm not one of those girls that's taking 100 different selfies and is all vanity, this and that, because I had my own hangups. But if you're a business and you take yourself seriously, you have to be your own best marketer of your music as a business owner as well.
No, and I think, now that you mention yourself and you put yourself out here, I'll take a few jabs, right? Hey, you did it to yourself. No, but I think even evaluating yourself, right, as an artist, it's analyzing what are your strengths, what are you good at, and that's something that we spoke about. Is you have a great image, right? You have a great voice, but is what stage are you as an artist? Or because a lot of guys, a lot of gals out there, they try to fake it till you make it, and they overspend in production when they don't have anybody to consume that production, right? It's just like you do amazing video, but then you don't have an audience ready to consume it, or it's too small, right? So then it becomes you start bleeding money every month, right? And then at the end of the day, this comes about building a business, and you got to put your ego behind it to actually be able to build an audience, build distribution, just create content. Because right now, the guy from Spotify mentioned something. He got a lot of shit for it, but he talked about how musicians can't get away from doing an album every 3 to 4 years. What he was talking about is the algorithm favors content volume, right? So it is, as an artist, I'm a business guy, right? So it's a little different. I don't complain about that. He's telling me the playbook, yo, let's go. I know. And then artists are complaining about, oh, what about the art? What about this? I get it, right? I get it. But you could do both. You could do volume content, live performances, whatever, and then put out your art. I think everything is changing, and if you don't adapt, you get left behind. Is that easy? And as far as the fear that you mentioned, that's something, that's a human thing. It's we fear everything we don't know, right? Like if it's all dark, you're not going to just be running when it's all dark, because you don't know what's in front of you, right? So I think it's something that when we observe ourselves, is key to really pay attention to how we behave in different situations. And that's just a normal thing, is just kind of looking at it. Why am I scared? What am I fearing? Failure of what? What other people will say. I mean, if you put your value on the opinions of others, you're never going to do anything, and you're never going to feel like you're worth much, you know. So get to know yourself a little bit. I think analyzing your fears and insecurities is like a good place to start.
Yeah, and then also understanding that almost the fear of not doing it, thinking about what that looks like for you in 5, 10 years if you never followed your dreams because you were scared of opinions of other people. And I know for me, the way that I've overcome my fear, because I'm terrified about so many things that I do, you know, even on a day-to-day basis, but the way that I overcome is I run at it and I say, it doesn't matter, because what's the worst that could possibly happen? Am I going to die? Probably not. Might I be embarrassed? Maybe. Does it matter? No, because ultimately I was brave enough to believe in myself and go for it.
Yeah, just do it, man. It's just like how I'm looking at it in terms of that is, and I think we get a lot of conditioning from society, right? A lot of insecurities that get hammered into us. When we're kids, I look at my son. You know, he's 4. I mean, he thinks he's Sonic, he's Spider-Man. You know, he thinks he can fly. He wants to go to the moon, right? And usually as kids we have these dreams, and Robin Sharma, who's the author of The Monk That Sold His Ferrari, has a great conversation about that, where he was talking about how we want to be artists, we want to be painters, and at times our parents condition us to say, hey, be realistic, right? You can't do that. Or our friends, you know, I received that as well, right? When I have a computer science degree. So when I said, hey, I want to build a business instead of taking a 200K a year salary, and I was eating shit for 7 years, you know, to be an entrepreneur, I wasn't getting a lot of support from anybody in my family, right? Friends, anybody, everybody's like, yo, you're crazy. But it's you have to be willing to be a little crazy, you know, to do things a little different. And that's when you get rewarded if you stick to it. Now, if you fail, you know, adjust. That's something that you fail and look at why you fail, but look at yourself. Don't point fingers, you know. So I could tell you that every failure that I've had has been my responsibility, and I carry that load, and I mean, there's nobody else's fault but mine. You know, that's taking ownership in what you do. I think it will set you apart from other people, and even your former self in a way. You know, just kind of continue to evolve. You know, as you go through you know, music or whatever you do, whatever art you do.
I feel like by taking ownership, you take away or you empower yourself, because you're no longer going to blame anybody else. It's on you. If you need to do better, if someone needs to do better, if you need to fire someone, that's all on you ultimately. But I think that's an empowering thing.
And it's scary. You know, it's scary because you mentioned about firing people. I mean, we scale a company to 150 people, and I had to fire 140 of them. And I had to stand in front of them and say, "Hey, guys, the party's over, and it was my fault." You know, it's not. I mean, people crying. I mean, that's not easy to go through it, but it's something that you continue to learn, continue to evolve, and like life is too short, man. Just do whatever the fuck you want. You know, go for it, fail, fall on your face and get up. You know what I mean? We're all gonna die at the end of the day, so it doesn't. You know, just might as well go for everything you want.
Now, when you say go for it, let's transition now into, when we say go for it, doesn't mean go and sign all kinds of contracts without having them reviewed. And specifically, let's talk about record label agreements. Now, let me preface by saying, about 8 months ago, I'm sure you know this, Kanye went on his tweeting rampage. He posted every single page of every single contract. It was like 100 pages. So he posted all his music contracts, and he was upset because he wanted to be able to purchase back his masters. So as it relates to kind of the standard industry thing of record labels own music, what's kind of your perspective on that?
Well, I get both sides of it, right? I like to be. Um, Somebody told me, "It's like, oh, you're a good person." I was like, "No, man. I just like to be fair, right? Like just right in the middle. Like, if an artist is not behaving the right way, I think you're able to just be just on both sides." So looking into Kanye stuff, um, I went. So I'm not going to mention the major that we went into, but we were working on a deal with them, and you know, they had a whole bunch of like masters from like previous artists, like just huge catalog in the wall. Like it was just amazing to see. And the CEO said, pointed to it, and he's like, "That's our business, owning masters." right? So it's that's why they don't really do management. That's why they don't really do like brand integrations. They don't do like any of that stuff. Usually the 360 deals are I think they're good and bad, but going back to the majors is understanding that's their business. You could fight it, you could cry about it, but that's their business. So if you want to go in and do a deal with them, you have to understand that you're going to give that up. And to me is if you're not able to do things yourself, a major is not that bad, but it's kind of like flipping a coin. Because if the first two, three singles don't work, you're going to get benched, and then
And
you're
when
going
you
to be at
get
that.
benched, what does that mean for the artist?
I mean, they're not going to, I mean, it's like any business though, because see, the artists like to play victim too much. But it's like if I put 300,000 into you, right? And the first three singles don't work, I'm not going to put out 300K if I'm like
Right.
300 in the red, right? So it's a business. The business doesn't work because even and I'll give you an example now. As our companies have evolved, you have people in finance that will tell you how much you should spend and when a project is too risky and what you need to pull out. So it's not even the A&Rs, it's not even the CEOs, is they could scream. And I was a part of some projects internally because I was offering digital marketing to some majors where the A&R believed in the artist. I mean, I went in there pitching, right, to get more budget, but the way their financial system was set up, the artist just fell out of it was unrecoupable. Right, so they have to shut it down because at the end of the day, it's a business. They're publicly traded companies, so they don't have as much flexibility. And then the last thing is they were built to dominate in other times. Communication changed, and they haven't been able to adjust. That's why you see so many indie artists now, hitting, or now labels get the artists after they develop. Before a label could find you like at a restaurant singing, and they'll like mask you up, change your image, take you to the studio, get you with a great producer, great songwriter, make you dance, you know what I mean, per radio, TV, and they'll force feed you and they'll break through an artist, right? That they could develop. Attention now is broken down everywhere and they don't know what happened, so they can't develop artists. So we have a deal right now with a major, and our deal is to help them develop artists because they don't understand social. The only thing they understand about social is just doing paid media, and that's like a very small percentage of the social media game.
So for the average artist who's looking at, and feeling like the only way that they're going to have anything happen with their music career is to sign with a major, it kind of sounds like what you're saying is there just needs to be a little more clarity, transparency, and better communication. Just saying, look, if you're going to sign up, it's a gamble. They can't promise they can do anything for you. And in fact, you might get shelved, meaning you're still signed, but they can't put more money into you, and they're going to own the music. So if you want to take the gamble yourself, that's on both of you.
Yeah, because it's I've seen it both sides. Some artists don't work, some do. So it depends who you speak to, what story they're going to tell you. Also, a lot of artists don't understand how business works. So, for instance, we took over management of an artist that signed with Universal recently, and the reason being because the artist didn't understand the music business, his manager didn't understand the music business, so they weren't able to communicate with Universal properly. So when we came in, we said, okay, Universal, what do you need for this to go? They say we need music videos with such time anticipated. We need to understand, blah, 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 right? All these timelines. So we're able to set up a system to be able to deliver those assets in time so the whole machine could get behind it. But there's artists that get signed and they think, I'm not going to do anything because I'm signed. It's like, no, it's still your business. It's your career. You got to look at it. At least this is even how I tell the artists we work with is look out for yourself, because I could go and sign another artist. You only have one fucking career. Like, that's it. So you have to be on your shit. Like we spoke about Carolina. A lot of people don't know the project started with a $2,000 budget because we already had committed most of our marketing and production spent to other projects we were working on. But she was fucking busting her ass. It was like, damn, like, we got to give her 4K. And then we got the money back. It's like now 10 and then 50, right? But it was all because she was on it. Like she was editing her own videos. She was shooting her own videos, taking her own photos. I mean, she's like, I don't want you to spend on that. I'll do it myself. So every dollar you have, put it into my marketing, right? So it's when you find people that understand it and they're trying to really get down and work, it's a label will get behind you because they can't lose that way. They're going to know eventually it's going to break through. But a lot of artists, and this happens to too many of them, Any artist also creative is not organized. So if you're going to work with a major, make sure you have a team around you that understands how the politics, right, in the majors work, how to communicate with them, how to set up systems and how to make sure that you're delivering the assets they're asking you ahead of time. That way, you're their favorite artist because you always have your shit together. That's what a lot of people complain. I'm like, dude, you're not doing your part. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like if an artist is signed with me and I'm struggling with them, I don't even want to work with them, right? So like the one thing that we tell them is, look, you give me 100%, we'll give you 200. You give me 90, I'm not giving you anything, man. Because I have a family to feed. We have big teams, right? So it's all about, there has to be a commitment on both sides. We can't expect just the label to just rescue you all the time.
Yeah, and that's what I tell all my clients. I go, whether you stay independent, which I definitely advocate for, I go, if you got that audience, you got that, not just the hustle, but you got kind of, the buzz, and people are wanting to come to the shows and buy your merch and all of that. You might not even need a partner, which is really what the record label is supposed to be. But that means you have to be a business person either way, whether you stay independent or if you go with the label, because you got to prove yourself as well. And look, I don't want to villainize, record labels. I have a record label course teaching you how to set up record labels because I want to empower people to just understand how this works. And I think, that's what we're saying here. Be a business person.
No, and I think it's understated the importance of that, because then you also understand how the business for the label runs, and you'll understand, for instance, if I'm working right now on a project, right, and I'm pitching to the CEO, I'm like, look, this project is going to do this, this, and this, and then it's going to make you look like this when you do your quarterly meetings, right? So it's like understanding that the CEO still has to report to the board of directors every 3 months, to report quarterly earnings, to report new signings, to report return on investment. And if your project is one of the North Stars that he's able to present, right, now you have a relationship because you're helping this guy keep his job and get bonuses and everything. So he's going to keep coming to you. So I think we make sure that when we do partnerships with anybody, that we're adding value directly to what they need for them to succeed. Because if we help them, they're going to help us. So a lot of people don't want to take the first step. They just want for everything to be done for them. So I think that's also really important, is add value. Anywhere you go, make sure you add value.
Now, do you ever encourage any of your artists to reach outside of just music? So, for example, if someone has something else that they can do, is that helpful for marketing? Is that a distraction from what they should be doing with their music careers?
Well, it depends, right? It's if it feeds back into it, if it connects to music, is great. So, for instance, if for example, you could dance. That goes with your music, right? Because it's part of an artist is the image, right? So it's not just what you hear, it's what you see, right? And then if you're able to build a male audience because of those skills, right, you just have consumers, right? So it's kind of like, yes, I'll suggest it as long as it ties in, right? Or if you're already a big artist, like let's say Kanye. Right? I love Kanye, right? I know he's had his things, right? But when you look at what he did and you mentioned the agreement, right, that he posted his contract and all that stuff. He's made 100 million or something like that for music, but he's made 7 billion outside of it. So when you look at it that way, is music shapes culture, creates culture, and culture basically defines what product we consume. So I think if you're a big artist, you should start seeing how you could continue to monetize the influence that you created and the culture around your music. But if you don't have an audience, I think is first focus on making sure your music is hitting and is influencing before you try to do other things. Because I look at artists that are still struggling to make a business and they're trying to sell merch, just how to sell these things. And it's like, I mean, you're wasting more time putting into the designs, into this, into the orders, into all that stuff than where you're getting out. Because for instance, I'm big on input output. So I went to school for computer science. So that's all it is, right? Input output, what you get in, what you get out. For instance, let's say like Elon Musk, right? He's working 80 hours, but he's getting, even if I'm working the same 80 hours, he's still getting more output than I am, right? Just because of the value he's adding, the leverage that he has, and then the unique businesses. So also for the artist at a smaller level is saying like, where should I be putting all my effort to? Right. So merch is better outsourcing, right? Just all the things that you're not good at, initially outsource it, even if you make less money, but just focus on what you're really good at.
Well, and obviously Kanye is of topic in our conversation today, but it's just because there's so much that you can discuss with him, with the career that he's had, but also that he was able to take, his creativity into other branding, into other ventures that are likely more profitable than the actual music, because in that instance, he's actually splitting it with his record label and all the earnings, and probably owes them, quite frankly.
Well, and that's I think, but I mean, he's done very well touring though, right? So it's one of those, like a major label, they're going to own the masters, but then they're going to put so much money behind those masters because they own it, that is going to get you known as an artist. And then you could tour, you can make money there, you could do the merch, you could do brands. But I think it's important is, as much as he's not making money from music directly from his masters because he's unrecouped, I mean, it's without the music, nothing else happens. And without the major behind him, like I don't. When you look at Chance the Rapper, right? I think he's a great example. That's an indie artist that was able to navigate and create distribution deals and still maintain control. But I mean, that's a case study that, I mean, is one in a million, right? It was like the right timing, the right management. The shift in culture happened in music. He just came out with the right songs. So I think also you can't base yourself out of the exceptions in the marketplace. You have to understand what are the rules by what most projects fall under. I'm a numbers guy, very math driven. So it's uh, as much as I like chance, the chances of replicating that are fairly slim, for an artist. So it's like, it could be a blueprint you follow, but figure out your own path. Like, you could get inspiration from these artists, but look at what your skill set is. Look at, the market. Look at the content that you're doing. Look at your image. Look at, you know what I mean. Just really look within yourself, right? It's like a very Buddhist kind of saying, right? But it is, the answers are within, and sometimes we're too busy looking out.
Well, and the last piece I think I want to discuss is we're having kind of this discussion right now about the artist, their perspective, protecting themselves, why you do deals with record labels, when not to. But as an actual record label owner, are there any tips that you can give to someone else who's looking at starting a record label or has, about maybe something that you learned that you made a mistake on?
Well, yeah, I mean, legal, I mean, we lost at a multi-million dollar project, the first project that hit, because we didn't have the legal stuff right. So we got screwed, and we were part of a legal battle for 2 years. Basically, an ex-partner, Manny, and I, still can't speak too much on it, due to, like, all the legal stuff, but things just didn't go right, and it didn't land in our favor. And at the end of the day, even the artist ended up paying for it, because through all these legal battles, the artist wasn't able to release music, and his career died. So it went from a best new artist and Latin billboards to like non-existent. So I think, and even when we were trying to, sell some masters, Manny and I, we thought we were lawyers a little bit. And, we're like, yo, this is, that's when we met you. It's like, no, you need legal to do anything in music. As smart as you think you are, especially people that are entrepreneurs, we, at least the purebred, right? I don't think I have an issue with confidence. I think I'm too overconfident in anything I do, and sometimes that could create problems. So it's kind of putting your ego down and saying, you know what, I need help. I need to make sure the legal stuff is ready. I still don't understand it, right? So like our relationship with you is, dude, whatever you think legal, because that's what I know other things. It's like with music, people a lot of times they confuse and they think I'm the CEO of SEMA, and it's like, oh man, it's Manny, right? It's just because I'm more out there. But in reality, we just had a meeting literally not too long ago, and Manny's like, what do you think? I was like, bro, whatever you think, I'm behind you, right? Because I think also even understanding yourself, for a long time we were co-CEOs, and it made me realize that I was creating more problems and solving them at the time of making executive decisions, because I could tell stories and convince people and kind of distort reality a little bit. And we started having some misses here and there. So it just took me coming to Manny and say, you know what, bro, you're the CEO. Like, just you run this. Whatever you need, I'm your fucking employee, right? And even though the distribution is 50-50, somebody has to take the lead, and you're the most adequate person to do it. Or even now with a new business that we have with an incubator is, inviting people, to the project and, slicing it with them and figuring out different ways to work. And like Arturo, he's another guy that's adding a lot of value to us right now. Felix, Rene, all these guys that are seasoned veterans. So I think also is just surround yourself with the right people, with the right team that have the right experience, but make sure your legal stuff is set up, man. Like I think this year has been a hassle, but it's needed. You don't want to hit and then lose it because you didn't do the right contracts.
Yeah, and it's whatever the reason is at the time that someone doesn't get, because I hear, right, as an entertainment attorney, I hear people who will say it's too expensive. I don't want to pay that $500 for a contract, but then they don't understand they're going to be paying $10,000, 6 months later because someone breached the contract. There was nothing in writing. Now we're having to figure it out and duke it out in court, and setting aside even the financial, just the headache. Sometimes just contacting an attorney for some people can be intimidating because they don't know the process or what's going to happen or if they're going to get taken advantage of. And the whole point of attorneys is we're here to help you and to protect you. So that's why I say hiring an attorney is a very personal thing, because you're hiring a person. And that person should have a skill, should have a degree, should do a great job, but you need someone who really has your back and has your best interests at heart.
And I think it's also having somebody that on the legal side that understands where things are going. And I think, working with you, at least for us, uh, um, it was great because we were used to working with lawyers that take, longer times to get back to you. It's just like weeks, all these long processes. And I think, working with you is the agility, the speed, to be able to work through projects is key because business is moving so fucking fast right now. So if you're not moving fast, you're getting left behind. I think, having, whether it's from consulting or on retainer or just on courses, is making sure that you're getting the right information. I told you, my membership for Rocket Lawyer, you were one of their best clients, but that stuff, even getting those templates that don't really that they're not, I mean, they're okay, but they're not going to protect you all the way. So having even, a specific niche templates that really serve in today's, business model, is great, because even for us, we're now revising some of the existing agreements, making sure we're up to par with the changes and all that stuff that's happening. So I think, legal, it's, is your foundation. Even for a partnership or whatever you want to do for photo shoots, you want to make sure that, the photographer signs the rights to the photos. You don't want to then put it in a magazine and then the photographer to try to sue you because your art has made it big and now they're just trying to munch off of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned, I took time because I have so many clients that contact who need help starting their record labels, but taking time to actually, as part of the course, record videos explaining the contracts. Now, not everybody wants to hear me explain the contract. It might be boring, it might be whatever, but if you're going to use a template, you need to understand what that template is. Get it that one time from the attorney, but no, when someone says, hey, I want to change the accounting provision, and you're like, I have no idea how to deal with this, take that time with an attorney or go through a course or do something, but just enable yourself so that you're not dealing with problems. Nothing is going to kill your project and your business faster than getting stuck in a 2-year litigation.
No, that's the bottom line, especially because for us, even it was draining just dealing with the lawyers and the process. Like outside of like the money and everything, it adds stress into your life. It's just issues that you don't want to be dealing with. It starts to affect your personal life. It's just the business. I think your health, and it was something that it affects more than what you think when you go through it. Because it was 2 years. I imagine like. Yeah, it was just draining and honestly unnecessary. Like we could have avoided everything and we would have gotten paid, but we didn't. But we learned. That was definitely a lesson learned.
So on a move forward basis, we'll have it up on the screen, but you guys can follow the X-Founder at the X-Founder on Instagram. He has a few different personal brands, but that's definitely the one where you can get maybe some daily influence and motivation. You're definitely a spiritual person and you have some good things to share with people about your journey.
Yeah, it's been a unique journey, but if I could, before we finish up, is just enjoy your life, man. Just live it day by day, surround yourself with good people, help whenever you can. And just, we don't know how long we're going to be here, so that's kind of how I look at life. I'm it's family first for me, my kids, my wife, mom, sister, and then my extended family as yourself, as all our partners, and people that we work and do business. Is for me, it's more so about, how can we continue to share information for others to continue to build, so then the next generation doesn't have to go through the shit I went through, right, to be able to do these things. So I think, for instance, the stuff that you're doing with the course and all these things, I mean, it's something that I really stand for, because I wish I had that. You know what I mean? It would have saved me a lot of headaches. So it is, just take advantage of the resources nowadays and search. I learned fucking most of the things that I know through YouTube. Just search. There's too much info on the internet,
It's too much indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be sure to check back with you, I'm sure, at some point, because you are moving very quickly indeed with many business ventures. So guys, until next time, thank you for joining us on another episode. I'm Miss Krystle.